guys. So welcome back to the PPP, and I'm not talking about no PPP loan. I'm talking about
No, they ain't getting those no more.
they not. We're talking about the Prosperity Playbook podcast, and today we have the legendary. Stop looking around.
See those legendary.
People who be trying to act like they not a big deal, but they really are a big deal. So listen, you guys, Jay Bailey is the CEO of the Entrepreneurship Center. And I had to literally, let me tell you the power of networking. They had an event. You guys, first of all, you didn't know me, but I knew you. And that's how it is when you're a famous person or a popular person. He came and spoke at a Money Matters. That's the name of his episodes, y'all. Money Matters, right? So he came and spoke at a Money Matters event the Urban League had, and I was just sitting there, mouth open, kind of like the Usher concert that I went to in Vegas.
Close.
Totally engaged. He had my attention, and literally I was like, with this podcast opportunity came about, I was like, we got to get him on the show. So I came to an event that you had for Christmas. You had a holiday party here.
Oh, we had fun.
Y'all had fun, and the food was delicious. Whatever that chef was.
Shout out to Chef D. He's amazing.
Kudos, bruh.
Yeah. Ice sculptures, the whole nine. It was nice.
Did an amazing job. So when I walk into the Rice Center, guess who I see, y'all? Jay Bailey was sitting on the couch. He was on his phone, and I was like, I'm going right up to him. I'm going to talk to him. So I literally like, hi, Jay. My name is Necole. I'm with the Atlanta Voice News, and we want you on our podcast. And you were like, cool, good. Where have I heard Necole Gibbs before? As soon as I heard that name before, and I'm like, I'm just getting started. But we want you on the show, and you agreed to it. So thank you for being here.
Hey, I am honored to be here. Thank you for being here. We finally get to try out all this new equipment we put in our fancy little podcast room.
It's super dope.
Thank you, Necole. I think this may be the first podcast I've done in our podcast room.
I feel so special.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel special too. Thank you.
That's what's up. So let's jump right into it, guys. So we always have an icebreaker because we have this whole situation with Audible where you could download an Audible book for 30 days. You could download the Audible app for 30 days for free. To kind of get into I feel like anything you really need to know is in a book, and the book is always better. So this is an icebreaker. So while money is important, it is also important that you never fall in love with the money to the exclusion of anything else. Entrepreneurs are not in love with money. They are in love with the dream of turning their ideas into value, which will then precipitate into money. Elizabeth Gordon said that in her book, Chic Entrepreneurs. What is your perspective on that quote?
I don't know if I would say all entrepreneurs, because I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship in pursuit of money.
Okay.
I think the best entrepreneurs, the most successful entrepreneurs, seek out a higher calling. Stevie Wonder didn't start singing and playing piano and creating melodies because he wanted to get rich.
Right.
There's not a person on the planet that wants to sit on the operating table with a doctor that became a surgeon because they want to get rich. And so I think with entrepreneurs that are here to literally solve the world's biggest problems.
Yeah.
To fill gaps. I mean, and two, the entrepreneurial journey is so hard that you're gonna be broke, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be broke down, you're gonna be lonely. Like, to do all of that and to go through all of that with no guarantee of success. If it is just about the money, I just don't think that I think that's where the quote holds true.
Yeah.
That there has to be a higher aspiration, a higher calling, a higher purpose to why someone would give up all stability.
Yeah.
To give up everything that is predictable.
Absolutely.
And enter a pathway or start a pathway. It's what does Dr. King say? Faith is taking the first step without seeing all the rest of the stairs. Well,
Right.
I really messed that one up, but it's essentially the same thing for entrepreneurs.
Yes, it
You
is.
step into a world where you see nothing. You have the big idea, the hope and the belief in yourself that you can make it happen.
Yeah. So that quote is very, very true. I've been doing this entrepreneurship journey on my own since 2018, and it hasn't been easy at all.
Oh, it never
But I
is.
never quit.
Mm.
And I'm not going to, right?
Amen.
So listen, how did your path lead you into how you got this job? How did your path lead you into this type of position? Because I read your bio, you're an extraordinary resume, But how did you get into this position?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur, and so I
Okay.
think that
What
I
you sell? Products, services?
everything, in
Okay.
all kinds of all things. I started my first business at 12.
Okay.
I bought my first house at 19.
Okay.
Made my first million at 23. Didn't have good money role models, lost everything by the age of 28.
Oh my gosh.
But it was there that I learned a really important lesson. By the world's standards, I had been successful.
Okay.
All the clothes, all the cars, all the houses, all the material trappings of what people consider wealth.
Mhm.
Uh, I had been successful, but I had zero significance. I had done nothing to put a dent in this world. I had done nothing to change anyone's life. I had done nothing really to give back.
Yeah.
And if we get into the story of how I got to be that way, that's a different story. But at the end, when I started chasing significance, within 4 years of homelessness, I was helping to grow a $30 million nonprofit organization in 10 countries.
Okay.
Driven to really change people's lives. I retired at 39, went back into entrepreneurship. But I tell the story all the time that my wife and I made a very strong promise that I'd never get another job again. That
Mhm.
I knew that my way of creating legacy and having impact on the world would be to create generational wealth for our family,
Mhm.
to create jobs and opportunities for others,
Mhm.
and bring hope back to communities.
Absolutely.
But I had to break that promise to my wife, because there are very few times in life where you get to be a part of something you know will outlast you. There
Yes.
are rare moments where you get to be a part of something that could potentially change the world.
Mhm.
But the rarest moments come up when you have the opportunity to potentially be the best in the world. And I
Mhm.
think the opportunity to carry forward the legacy of someone like Herman J. Russell Sr.
Yeah.
in Atlanta and what we're developing, the world's largest hub for Black entrepreneurs,
Absolutely.
that's a once in a generation opportunity. And
Absolutely.
when I had the opportunity to step up as our founding CEO to really literally take this building that you're sitting in, that was completely gutted out with roaches and rats and dripping wires and dust,
Mhm.
and envision something that would create deep belonging for Black entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. So were you in the, preliminary stages of this whole concept
Oh,
or
yeah, no, this is all my baby. So, the Russell family was benevolent in gifting the building to a 501(c)(3),
okay.
but I was hired by the family uh, to cast the vision, to create the thing that it would become. The gift was the building. They didn't give us any funding,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
the gift and the curse to start at zero, with no funding, no employees, no strategic plan,
Mm.
no walls, no toilets, no light fixtures, and to envision a place where which will become a safe space for Black entrepreneurs to fail and fly,
Mm.
that would create a space that created dignity and self-esteem and confidence and belief, where our entrepreneurs could see value in their own reflection. So
Mhm.
yeah, there were many
Mhm.
a nights I'd sit on a dirt floor on a concrete slab and just envision what a wall would look like here.
And how much work so let me ask you this. It's funny we kinda going in this direction with this conversation. Now the family chose you. Did you
Mhm.
know somebody in the family or
Well, Atlanta's a small town wrapped around tall buildings, and I'm from Atlanta. So
okay,
the family knew of my work. They knew of the work that I had done with other organizations. That's how I came to be interviewed for the opportunity.
I see.
A recruiter found me. And at first, I actually declined the opportunity
Oh,
because I
wow.
had made that promise to my wife.
Mhm.
But no, so the family knew that they needed a leader to come in into, this building that was a hollow shell
Mhm.
and create something of it. So I was blessed to have that opportunity.
You said you envisioned everything that we now are sitting in. So we're
Mhm.
kind of like sitting in your mind and your
Mhm.
brain, right?
Mhm.
So do you feel like entrepreneurs miss the mark when it comes to understanding that to manifest certain things, it takes visualization? Do you do more visualization work or do you do more groundwork? Which one works best for you? Because
I think that the answer is you got to do both.
both.
I think that where I always press entrepreneurs when they say they want a thing, I make them articulate what that thing is.
Mhm.
Not in generalities around, I want to be successful. No, what does successful look like? Well, I want to have my own store. No, what does that store look like? How many stories is it? What street is it on?
Mhm.
What color are the walls? Let's get very specific. And I'm
And
just a firm
intentional.
believer. around intentionality.
Mhm.
That if we're going to manifest things, we have to see them. If I need a red chair with no wooden legs, but with metal legs and corduroy fabric,
Mhm.
if I see that and I get really specific, it's easier for me when you start talking about visualization, manifestation, and groundwork.
Mhm.
I know exactly what I'm working towards.
Absolutely.
If I'm trying to get somewhere, the first question I'm asking is what's the address? Everything else I can work on, but I need
Mhm.
specifically where am I going
Mhm.
to get there? I may have to walk, I might have to take a bus, I may have to take a plane or a boat. But if I know exactly where I'm going,
Mhm.
I can reverse engineer a plan to get there.
Absolutely. So would you say you're more spiritual or religious?
A little of both. I love my
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh.
My wife and I, my daughter, we all just joined St. Philip AME in Decatur on Candler Road.
Okay. Who's the
Uh,
presiding pastor?
what's his name? He's gonna hate me for this one. Yeah, Elmwood. No,
Elmwood.
he's an incredible young pastor.
Okay.
He's dope.
Okay.
But I think I'm both though. I think that I'm a nature guy, so I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time out in the woods connecting with the earth.
Mhm.
Um,
Grounding work.
but I think that
Mhm.
there also is a tremendous amount of discipline that goes in being a religious person as well. There's a
Yeah.
humility comes with it. There's a submission that comes with it. There's always the opportunity to ensure that you know that there's a greater force than you. And I
Mhm.
think that humility goes along with any entrepreneurial journey that we lose ourselves when we don't realize that the purpose is greater than our own.
Mhm. So the Rice Center seems like they're embracing the Black Wall Street culture. That's what it seems like to me.
Mm,
And for me, there are a lot of financial myths and misconceptions when it comes to financial literacy, and I want you to kind
mm.
of address those. So, what are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions people have about money and finances when it, especially entrepreneurs?
I'm not the biggest fan of if you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
I think financial literacy training is one thing.
Okay.
Circumstances are a whole other.
Yeah.
I may know that it's not the right thing to do,
Yeah.
but if my kids are hungry, I was having a conversation with a guy the other day about tax season, and he was talking about tax holiday, and he was being harsh in our community around bad decisions that are made around tax season.
Yeah.
I said, well, give us a little more grace than that, because I don't know if you've ever been poor before.
Yeah.
He said, well, what do you mean? I said, look, you take a mother who loves her son. I mean, loves her son. And 364 days out of the year, she has to tell him no. We can't afford it, baby. I'm so sorry. Mommy wishes she could, but I can't.
Mhm.
And then there's that one windfall day per year where a mother can say to her son, baby, let's go get some. Let's get you those new Jordans you want.
Mhm.
Let's go get a new TV.
Yes.
It ain't even really about financial literacy. Does she know better?
Mhm.
Maybe. But in the heart of it, she's a human being with dignity.
Yes.
And if she can, at that one moment, be a whole mother that's not disappointed in herself, that doesn't second guess herself, that's not depressed by her lack of opportunity,
Mhm.
to actually go do something beautiful for her son.
Mhm.
It's not about financial literacy.
Okay.
And so I think that this notion that we can just tell people something
Mhm.
and immediately they'll be able to do things differently. I just don't think
Mhm.
that that's true. You have
Okay.
to live experiences, you have to walk with people. They have to see it, feel it, believe it, internalize it. It cannot just be informational. It
Yeah.
has to be transformational. And
Mhm.
so I think that some of the myths are is that if I sit you down for an hour class,
Mhm.
that your life will change. There may be things that inspire change, but I think the change is incremental and it goes a lot deeper than that.
Jay, I hear that nicely politically correct answer.
Mhm.
But as a single mom, I just that needs financial literacy for my two young princes who are going to be
Sure.
kings one day. That to me isn't serving the economic empowerment that we need within our communities. Like,
We got plenty of financial literacy courses. Why haven't things changed?
so that's what I'm asking you.
Mhm.
So, as an emotionally intelligent human being,
Mhm.
we can't wear our emotions on the sleeve. Even though I had to tell you yes for 364 days, when I get that tax money, I may be able to take that money and flip it and do something in a business
Mhm.
that would get you Jordans anytime you want.
So
But
back to you and saying it's a very nice politically correct answer. We just shared that entrepreneurship is hard.
Yeah.
It's lonely to say you can take that $1,000, flip it into a business to get you the opportunity to get those Jordans you want. The possibility of you flipping that $1,000 to create a very profitable business is really small.
What's this percentage? If
It's
you had
less
to
than
guess.
30%. I don't have to guess. It's my
Okay.
business.
Yes.
And so I think that this notion of where we have a lot of people who become experts and they have a voice,
Uh-huh.
but have they ever built $1 million business?
Mhm.
Have they ever raised $100 million? Have
Mhm.
they ever built a structure before?
Right.
It is a really hard thing. And
Yeah.
so I think when you think about
Hard or challenging?
both,
Okay.
it's
They're not
both at
one
the
and the
same time.
same?
No, not at all. Hard is Mount Kilimanjaro. I
Okay.
don't care if you're in shape.
Mhm.
I don't care if you've done it 10 times.
Mhm.
I don't care if you could do it blindfold. It is
Mhm.
still hard.
Okay.
A challenge, and it may not be a challenge for you, but
Mhm.
it's still hard.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of things that are very hard to do that may not be a challenge for someone.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan, it's hard to dunk from the free throw line.
Right.
May not be a challenge for him, but it doesn't mean that it ain't hard.
I see.
And so I think, again, with financial literacy, there's a place for education. But I also think that very definitively, when we start talking about changing the economic circumstances of our people,
Yeah.
it is a much different conversation, deeper conversation that goes into sociology, psychology, practice, actual experience before we can actually move the needle. It cannot just be the sharing of information.
Sounds like mindset and personal development is much needed for us. So, how do we get to a point where people aren't taking their tax checks and buying 5 pairs of Jordans for their kids because they may not see that type of money again? Like, because I don't believe in that. I mean, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
haven't been rich. I haven't made $1 million yet.
Hmm.
But I tell you this, my tax money ain't going to Jordan.
I guarantee it's gone to things that you may not have needed.
Maybe.
So before
I'm
we get
not against,
judgmental,
I'm
what I
not
would tell you,
judgmental.
what I
I'm
would
not.
tell you is that I guarantee that you have
Okay.
tax money.
Yeah.
And as you sit here telling me what we should and should not do, I guarantee that you have made purchases that are
Maybe in the past.
anti-financial literacy.
Well, yes, I'm not saying take your
So
money and just dump it into a
no,
IRA
no,
or
no.
put it in your
Like when you talk about
business.
spiritual or religious, when you
Yes.
talk about sin is sin,
Yep.
we all make poor decisions based on our circumstance at the moment. And
Okay.
I am saying that I don't condemn people for, based on their circumstance in the moment, making a decision that makes the most sense for them.
I see.
There's a holistic approach to how you look at moving communities
Yes.
that goes deeper than just the Jordans.
I feel like sacrifice is one of the things that we don't like to make as African Americans.
Oh, I
Like,
know. I think we know sacrifice better than anybody
you
else in
think
the world.
so? Because some people, just like I would, my kid was like, Mom, have you gotten the taxes back yet? And I'm like, why are you asking me about my taxes?
Because before you have gotten them something when you got tax money,
Baby. Or they heard other kids' moms give them tax
black
money.
folks know sacrifice better than anybody. I can't think of another people on the planet that know sacrifice better
So,
than black people.
me sacrificing a temporary gain when it comes to having a lump sum is way more important to me than my child having some J's. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
we won't go out to eat, we won't go to Papa Do's, or we won't go have a
Oh,
nice.
so
Oh, look at
your
this.
thing is Papa Do's.
My thing is
Go purchase
eating.
Baby Jordan. So
That's
whatever your
true.
thing is,
It's
again, I am telling you that we all do it.
yeah,
And when you talk about black people and how I really love black people enough to know
yeah.
there is nobody on the planet that knows sacrifice better than us.
So you think the conversation has to change about the way we go about understanding financial literacy? Like, don't sacrifice because you feel like you shouldn't be doing something. Because I think a lot of times people feel like I'm not going to do this or that because I really need to prioritize. I
Mm,
really need to do this. I really need to do that. How do you feel about that when it comes to the mindset? Because we got to change the mindset. We spend over $2 trillion a year.
yes, but our economic impact is over 12 trillion a year.
Okay. But
So
how does that circulate back into our community? Our community is the only community when we get money, it goes from our hands straight to
have
the
you ever
next.
seen any data to support that?
I have.
You've not seen data.
I've seen
You know, no,
statistics.
you've seen a statement, but
Statistics.
nobody has ever shown you data to support that statement.
So, do you
I
believe
don't.
that in the Indian community, in the Chinese community, in the Hispanic community, in the Caucasian community, that money circulates 5 to 7 times before it leaves their community
They say
versus
12.
ours?
They
So
say 12.
12. Okay. So
Um, but I'm saying that when they say that the black dollar only circulates for 6 hours before it leaves our community,
right.
I have never seen anyone scientifically prove it. It's mythology.
What do you think as far as
So if you look at
being
this
in this?
space, this couch,
Yes.
this watch, this
Mhm.
hat, that camera, this
Mhm.
microphone, this water, the chips that we eat, we spend more with black companies than most Fortune 1000 companies. So I can show you an example of an institution where the black dollar circulates in perpetuity and never leaves.
Mhm.
There are examples out there because we believe one narrative,
Mhm.
we ignore the counter narratives that exist.
So let's change the
The black
narrative.
church has shown us a narrative for over 100 years that
Mhm.
we can circulate dollars in our community.
Okay. And do you think that's happening now?
Oh, absolutely. I know it is.
Okay.
Billions of dollars deposited every month into black churches from black people. If you Google who are the most philanthropic demographic of people
Mhm.
based on their monthly income,
Yeah.
it's black people.
Okay. So why are we so horrible at managing our finances?
Now, if you could give me a bit on what justifies you saying we're horrible at managing
I
our
know
finances?
females personally.
Individuals or the black population?
I know black
You
females
know black people that are horrible at managing their
that
finances.
will take
And
money.
I know white people that are horrible at managing their money. What I'm urging you to think
Mhm.
is that I think that we do a disservice when we create broad generalizations
Mhm.
based on people. Because based on those generalizations, this place couldn't exist.
Very true, but it sounds like you're making excuses for us and for our
No,
community.
I'm
It
here.
doesn't sound like
Here,
you're like,
here's where I'm different.
okay.
Excuses are made by people that say black people are horrible,
Mhm.
but don't have any systems to change it.
Okay.
I can comment on the black community, but I've built a $70 million center to help.
Yes. But that's you. You're an anomaly.
So you say that I'm making excuses,
You're an anomaly when
but
it
I'm also creating a solution.
you are, and it's
So
amazing.
if
Mhm.
there's a solution to be created, it's not that I'm making excuses for black people.
Mhm.
I'm saying excuses are what? They're tools of the incompetent. They're just air, people talking about things.
Yeah.
What are we doing about it?
Okay.
I'm doing something.
So, how can we debunk these myths and spread accurate information?
Who makes my watch? A black watchmaker. Who makes my water? A black water maker. It is literally showing the examples that are the counter narrative to what we've always bought into and believed. We have to have more people that just don't fall in the trap of saying we're horrible without showing the hope. And that's what
So
we
you
need.
do believe in hope. Kunta
Wow.
Kinte believed in hope and he never made it to the promised land and got his foot cut off. So
So I think
a
that
lot of people in
that
slavery hoped to get out of slavery and they were divided from their families.
well,
And
are you here today?
I'm here today, but I know a lot of people that died
Are you
hoping that
are
they
you here
weren't.
today?
I am.
Yep. So you're evidence that those hopes, those prayers of your ancestors came true.
They didn't get to experience it though. So what does that say?
Plant seeds that will grow trees whose shade you may never sit under.
Okay.
They may not have gotten to experience it, but that goes back to your initial question.
Okay.
Stevie Wonder did not start making music to get rich.
Okay.
You don't do work to try to change the realities that you're trying to see for yourself. My personal motto is build as we climb.
Mhm.
And that planting seeds concept, Mr. Russell never even thought about the Russell Center. He never saw it come to fruition. But literally because he did the best that he could with what he had in the Jim Crow segregated South. Through his legacy, we're propelled here, now sitting in the largest center in the world dedicated to Black entrepreneurs. He
Mhm.
never saw it, he
Mhm.
never conceived it, but his efforts planted the seeds for this to exist. So when you say that they never saw the promised land, it's
Or
not
the
that their
hope.
death is in vain.
Mhm.
It's that for their sacrifice, back to us knowing sacrifice better than anybody else, all of us have opportunity.
Okay. So, you really believe it's possible to build your financial empire doing what you love to do?
Oh, absolutely. I know it is.
Okay. And
Hmm.
you know that because you've experienced it, right?
Yeah, I've done it.
Okay. So let's move forward. 50-30-20 rule.
Hmm.
Does it apply to you? Meaning 50% of your needs, 30% of your wants, and 20% of your savings. Do you have that mindset around that rule, or do you kind of use another ideology?
I think that rules work for some, not for all.
Okay. Rules work
Um,
for does rule for work for you?
yeah, my wife and I are very blessed, and
Okay.
so our
And it's
rules.
because you're rule followers?
No, no, it's because we're responsible,
Mhm.
and that we make our rules based on what works best for our family.
Absolutely.
And so, that rule may change when you have 2 kids. That rule
Mhm.
may be different when we didn't have kids.
Mhm.
That rule may be different when they're headed to college.
Mhm.
That rule may be different if we set a plan where they won't ever have to have scholarships.
Mhm.
So I think that part of financial literacy and economic empowerment is
Mhm.
looking at, back to what I was saying, around setting goals and reverse engineering a plan that'll get you there. I
Mhm.
don't think there's one methodology or ideology that works for all people.
Okay. Um, what does financial literacy mean to you?
Hmm. Personally, it is having the best information available to make a good and sound decision financially
Okay.
based on your circumstance.
Mhm. So you believe that experience and circumstances and where you are is a huge, essential situation based on what people will do when it comes to money.
I think so. I believe it deeply. I've experienced it. Realize that you're talking about a guy that raised $60 million last year,
Yeah.
but I've been homeless.
And how did that look? What did that look like for you? Were you in a car? Were you in a
No, I was
shelter?
in a 9 by 9 storage unit on Mountain Industrial Boulevard. And it wasn't because I was financially illiterate. I had made millions of dollars. I had worked for a bank. I run a couple of companies. But again, this kind of goes back to that financial literacy practice, circumstance, experiences, losses, tragedy, life experiences, things that get thrown at you that you don't expect. All of that gets put into the gumbo of how you make decisions. And so I don't think that there's just one particular road that we can take that leads us to prosperity or wealth. I think that life throws you all kinds of curveballs, and you
Mhm.
got to deal with those curveballs as they come. And sometimes, although the right answer may be here, or this is what the book says, or this is what the 50-20 rule says, can't do that right now.
That's
And
true.
that's just real. I think that anything that says that there's one way to do it
Mhm.
is the kind of, when you talked about making excuses,
Mhm.
I think I think that life is the classroom. I
Mhm.
think experience is the greatest teacher.
Yes.
And I think that it is all very unpredictable.
That's my methodology. Experiences should encourage and empower.
Mhm.
And I am super excited to move to some fun stuff. We're going to have some fun. Let's have some fun. So, listen, Roth IRA or high yielding savings account, if you had to choose one.
Depends on my tax bracket.
Let's elaborate on that for
So
our audience.
that's what I'm saying. There's no
Because
real.
some people feel like, oh, I should save my money and put it in a bank and just let it gain 1% every year. And some people are like, I want to put it in a index Roth IRA where it could grow. And if there's a downturn in the market,
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about losing any of my money
Well, that's
because it's growing
true.
off of the interest that the market gains.
But there are at
So
least 100 different other vehicles that you can put money in that can grow tax deferred, tax
we're
free,
talking about
tax
Roth
shelters.
IRAs and the high yielding savings account.
So I
Which
have
one
to
would you
choose one of
choose?
the two. But
One of
again,
the
it
two, and
depends on
tell
the
us
scenario.
why.
So if I'm using money in the next 3 years and I need that cash to be liquid, I'm going to savings account.
Okay.
Can't compare it to a Roth IRA if the intent for the money that I'm putting into it, what's the use of the money that I'm putting into it? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm saving for retirement and I won't need to touch that money for the next 20 years, maybe a Roth IRA is the best way to go.
Okay.
Back to what I said earlier about circumstance and an individual use case.
Okay. So Which one you said you want to go with?
It depends. I
You
can't
would not give me a definitive answer. I'm
see,
trying to give you
because that is how money works, and I think I want to debunk the myth that it's one way or the other.
okay.
That if I've got a $30,000 purchase that I've got to make at the end of the year, and I
Mhm.
don't want to keep that 30,000 in a checking account gaining no interest, but I
Mhm.
need to reach that 30,000 and touch it,
It needs to be liquid.
a Roth IRA makes no sense in the world.
No, because it's probably gonna be
But
an annuity or something.
boom,
Yeah.
or it could be an, like I said, there are 100 different vehicles.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking to save for my retirement, maybe a Roth makes the most sense. So if you say one or the other, I go back to my original point.
Mhm.
Depends on your circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Credit union or black-owned institution? Wait.
They're black owned credit unions.
Wait a minute. Let me preface it. So me and my friend, we were talking about this today, and I was like, I don't like black banks because when I need to move money around, it takes 3 to 5 business days, and if I need that money right there, and I'm at Pascal's or I'm at supporting a black business or
Mhm.
whatever, and I need to move that money from my business account to my personal account, it takes 3 days.
Now, I'd
So
ask you why you got to move your money from your business account to your personal
because
account. Because from
based on
accounting, if
wait a
you're
minute.
financially literate, you'd never do that.
Look, my circumstances
Ah, now we're getting there.
may have to be where I have to move some money around
So, yes,
sometimes.
from my seat, that would be financially illiterate.
Really?
However, based on your circumstances, is what you needed to do at the time. Because from
Okay.
tax code, you shouldn't ever have to move from your business account to your personal account just from one shift to the other. But you
Mhm.
asked the question, credit union or black owned institution?
Yes.
Black owned institution.
And why would you say black-owned institution versus a Navy Federal or a Bank of America or Wells Fargo?
The only way they'll survive is if I support. It's pretty cut and
Period.
dry. I can show you all in my wallet. I can show you 5 cards from black banks. I can show you 5 cards from other banks, but I'm always going to keep the lion's share of my capital that is liquid in black institutions.
So are you pro-black?
Oh, absolutely. This is the largest center in the world dedicated to black entrepreneurs.
So when I say pro-black, I feel like I'm a global chick. Like I feel like I'm pro-black, but I'm also a global person when it comes to how I spend my dollars and
Mhm,
where I spend my dollars
mhm.
because networking is important and just because you may not have the same color as me doesn't mean that you don't have the same mindset or heart that
Sure.
I have. So when I ask that question, you're saying pro-black. That doesn't mean you do business with other cultures, right?
Of course. Where did I buy this
Okay.
microphone from?
Okay. Okay.
But the vendor
So
that sold it to me was black.
let's talk about how that looks for the black community when it comes to pro black or being global and doing global business,
Mhm.
especially if you're an
Now,
entrepreneur.
if you look at the globe, that's another one of those things that's mythology. Most of the globe is black.
Hmm.
The vast majority of population growth is black. When you look at black and brown cultures all over the world, most of the world looks like you. If I go to South America, I'm speaking in Rio next week.
Hmm.
Salvador, Brazil, it's a city as big as Atlanta, and 98% of the people look like you.
Yeah.
We don't really get that if I go to Africa, if I go to parts of Asia, if I go to parts of Europe, if I go to South America, if I go throughout the Caribbean or any kind of island off of any coast, from Charleston to LA to Sao Paulo, Brazil, people look like you.
Hmm.
So when you say that you're a global chick,
Hmm.
the translation is do the population numbers. Most of the world looks like you. And so I think when you ask me black bankers or credit union, I also know that most people live on the north side of town. They have no reason to come to the south side of town except for the airport.
Hmm.
Their dollars don't translate to our businesses. When you talked about building Black Wall Street, the only reason that Black Wall Street worked and the reason that it was burned down is that black people patronized black businesses.
Hmm.
And when it got cantankerous, it's because white businesses started to suffer
Hmm.
because the black dollar was not circulating in their businesses, so they destroyed it all.
Yeah.
So I know that Citizens Trust Bank, if it weren't for people like me who choose sometimes to ignore convenience for support, I got to make that decision sometimes.
So, how do we block out all of this racial discrimination
Mhm,
and red tape and all of those things? Because it just sounds like you're just the messiah of, huh, Black people, we have this center.
mhm,
You could actually use it. You could, but we still have to deal with a lot of the, um, I guess, red tape. And I guess we have to deal with a lot of the negative energy around us moving forward when it comes to finances. There's so many things stacked up against us,
mhm.
but this conversation is
And that's
supposed
why I
to,
say that we know sacrifice better than anybody else.
yeah,
I could be a very well-educated, very wealthy Black man and
yes,
still have to sacrifice only the sole reason that I gotta sacrifice is 'cause I'm Black.
yeah,
And so how do you create institutions that combat those realities?
exactly.
Well, how do you create an institution? And, I even may take offense to the way you sung about it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to create institutions that take a Black woman to sit in a Black podcast room
Mm-hmm.
with Black engineers
Mm-hmm.
and Black cameras and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful Black people walking all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you got to fight anything in this space right now?
Not at all. Beautiful energy.
So why don't we create that?
How outside of this?
If
Is it a
we did it,
mindset
if
thing?
we did it, then it's possible. What my guy Ryan Wilson has done with the gathering spots,
Yes.
what they've done for over 100 years at Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, Morris Brown, Morehouse School of Medicine and ITC, what they've done in DC at Howard, what they've done at Claflin College, what they've done at Hampton University.
Howard, South Carolina State, Savannah State, the
Keep
list goes
going.
on.
So we keep asking, how is it possible when we literally have hundreds of examples that are over a century old?
Mm-hmm.
I stole the model from HBCUs in Motown, two incredible institutions of Black economic mobility that existed, and we did it on our own terms. We're right down the street from the Herndon Mansion that still stands today, a Black man that walked into an Atlanta as a slave barefoot and became Atlanta's first Black millionaire. We act as if we don't have this
Resources.
blueprint, not
Mm-hmm.
resources, but this blueprint.
Blueprint.
And I think that we've always had the script. We just choose to forget our lines.
Mm. So it sounds like you're more about perspective.
No, perspective gets you halfway.
Okay.
Perspective met with action is the other piece. All the powers in the doing.
Okay. Last fun question.
Mhm.
Old technology or new technology?
Wow. Give me an example of old technology.
Old technology was those dandy computers we had 20 years ago
Mm.
versus this iPad that I'm literally reading off all these questions and it's condensed in our phones or
Yeah,
like
I
what do
think
you because the reason I ask old technology versus new technology is because a
mhm.
lot of people feel like new technology is going to weed out jobs
It will.
with AI,
It will.
um, as strategies and techniques. But old technology kept people working. We didn't have as much bullying and suicide, and all of these are, like you said, statistics that can't really be proven.
Mhm.
However, it is happening. So which one would you prefer and why?
I mean, I go back to a Ford quote that if when he was creating the automobile or mass producing the automobile, if he had asked the people what they needed, they would have said more horses.
Hmm.
They wouldn't have said cars.
Right.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember the guy that used to sit outside the full service gas station and check your oil and wash your windows.
Yes, I am.
He doesn't exist anymore.
He sure doesn't.
That job was taken. It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah,
You used to have to go inside and get your pack of cigarettes or your candy, pay for your gas and everything else. Nope. Right now, you drive up, you pay for it at the pump, and you may never go inside a gas station ever again.
very true.
There's nothing that can stop progress. Technology is happening. It's
Evolution is what
going
it
to
is.
happen.
Yes.
And so I think that anyone that says, I prefer it this way, right?
Mhm.
They've got to realize, and I think that they have to realize that there's a bigger world than that. Because whatever they're saying they prefer,
Mhm.
there was somebody 20 years ago that said they were against it.
Yep. And they created like you said, entrepreneurs we're supposed to create the problem. I mean,
Solvers.
we're problem solvers, but we're supposed to create the solution to a problem.
And that's all entrepreneurship is.
Mhm.
Problem with an economic solution affixed to it.
Technology too, right?
But technology is the manifestation of problem solving. And I think
Yes.
that the point I was making around, time is a continuum. And
Mhm.
again, for the person says, I like the way it was X, right?
Mhm.
Whatever it was X, I guarantee there were people saying, I hate what this is because I wish it was the way it used to be. And, I think even when we start talking about what you were sharing around race and
Mhm.
black people and pro black, I know that there was a time where people preferred that you wouldn't have the opportunities that you have right.
Right.
There are still some people that would prefer for you to not have the opportunities that you have right now.
I know.
And in the future, there will still be people that would prefer that we don't have any opportunities at all.
Yeah.
And I think the work comes in when you start talking about entrepreneurship being an economic solution affixed to a problem. There's a business case that can be made for Black economic empowerment.
Yes.
There's a reason why we have to create safe spaces where a sister can come and feel the energy that she's just as good as anybody else out there in the marketplace.
Mhm.
That self-confidence, that self-esteem, that belief must be instilled because the world is constantly trying to tell you that it doesn't exist. And the mental
Right.
dexterity it takes to overcome all of the negative energy that exists out in the world is it creates this very deep vacuum of people that are able to escape and shed all of that.
Yes.
I'm saying that if we created more images of success, it's again, you've seen the doll test where they used to do this test where they hold up a black doll and a white doll.
Mhm.
And institutionally, a child who hasn't
Mhm.
really experienced the world
Mhm.
will say the white doll is
Was
pretty
pretty.
and the black doll was ugly.
Yeah.
Where did they get that?
Where?
So when I say that I give black people grace and looking at creating environments that make sure that my daughter gets to read books with little girls that look like her,
Mhm.
that she gets to have dolls
Mhm.
that look like her,
Mhm.
that instill this kind of belonging, this value in her own reflection. When I start to talk about the deep psychosis it takes to change mindset,
Mhm.
let's think about that little kid who says white doll versus black doll.
Mhm.
It's not because they made bad financial literacy decisions. It's not because they had, you know, years of compounded understanding of what racism is.
Mhm.
Even in that short time of their 2, 3, 4 years of life,
Mhm.
the pressures of outside images of who they are and what they can be have
Mhm.
impacted them to the point where they make a decision like that.
Right.
And this is why I fight so hard to create spaces that say to you as a black woman
Mhm.
that you matter, that you
Mhm.
belong. And this is why I support black banks. Because if we didn't have black banks, I don't ever know if we could really codify the black dollar.
Mhm.
Because Chase doesn't care, and I love Chase. They're one of my banks.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, their global need doesn't say that I want to ensure that black communities have the funding that they need to build their community.
Very true.
So all of that, to answer your question, that
Mhm.
I forgot what your comparison was, old technology to new
New
technology.
technology. Yeah.
It's always going to be new technology because I
Yeah.
think that new technology is always influenced by old technology. That iPad was influenced by
The
the
computer.
computer. The computer was influenced by the tabulating calculation machine
Mhm.
and going back to the abacus, right?
Mhm.
But all of those elements are still existing in that iPad.
Absolutely. And
So,
change is one of those things that's what? Inevitable, right?
absolutely. Cannot
So
stop
it's going
change.
to happen.
Yep.
Last question.
Yeah.
In your life, what would you say the most important person is based on these three words?
Mm,
Confidants, constituents, or comrades?
mm,
What would be the who would be the most beneficial person to you
yeah.
as an entrepreneur or person in business? A confidant, a constituent, or a comrade?
Mm.
And tell
Certainly
us
see
why.
value in all three. I think constituents buy your product that makes you a successful
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So if you're asking me as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say confidants are more important than my constituents because my constituents keep me in business.
Yep.
And if I am an entrepreneur and I'm in business, the only thing that matters for me to stay in business is my constituents that make me my business.
Mhm.
However, it doesn't deflate the deep need for confidants, people that you can go to
And talk
when you need a
to and
word.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you need a lot more confidants if you ain't selling nothing.
It's what is that
And
for boosting your confidence or
no, I'm
helping
saying
you
that
to
if I'm in business and I pay my bills this way, I feed my daughter this way, and nobody's buying anything, I can have a long line of confidants, or I could have 3 or 4 trusted ones. And after I'm done crying on their shoulder,
Mhm.
still got to get back out there and I need those constituents. So the
Mhm.
question around in business as an entrepreneur, who's more important?
Mhm.
Yeah, I may go with constituents
Okay.
for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience about financial literacy, entrepreneurship, or anything that you feel that they should take away from this conversation we had today?
No, I think that there is no one roadmap to success. I think everybody's journey is different. You know, there's a lot of people online. You'll go on Instagram and Facebook and see people saying, I flipped this $100 to make it $2 million in 3 weeks, and you can too. Pay me $6,000 and I'll tell you how. You know, I think that everyone's race is different.
Mhm.
You know, take the good and the bad, but at the end of the day, don't do it by yourself. Find your tribe, find people that you can put around you, those constituents and those confidants that help you figure out what your lane is, what your journey is. Because I think so many entrepreneurs make the great misstep of trying to do it on their own.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to do it on their own, you know, it
That's when the
decreases.
journey is hard.
It's hardest.
Hardest.
It is hardest when
Not
you're doing it
challenging,
on
but
your own.
hardest.
That is hardest.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to example, like hard and challenge.
Yes.
You can do it by yourself. It's
Mhm.
possible, but it is hardest.
Mhm.
So that'd be the final word.
All right.
Word.
That's the final word. We have nothing else to say. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode because guess what? Money does matter, right? And you see how it matters in our community through the lenses of Jay Bailey. See y'all next week.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Was it fun?
Oh, it's great, darling. So what do you